All right, hello. This is my first time on a YouTube live. I'm cutting vegetables, so we're gonna do that as I chat. However, I've wanted to start bringing more presence to YouTube because what I've recognized and what I love about YouTube is that it's kind of like a library, right? So like you can kind of go back and you can watch things whenever. So I wanted to start bringing more of what I share on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook here. And today I had a really awesome live on Instagram, and there was this topic that came up that I thought was freaking awesome and really impactful. And someone asked the question around the specific question was how to navigate situations and circumstances with your parents when it's super triggering. So this individual is discussing how he really wants to have a closer relationship with his mother, and that she started distancing herself after his divorce. And so I offered him a couple of things and reflections that I wanted to share here because I think that we as humans, I think most of us have had the experience of being triggered by our parents in some way, shape, or form. And I think part of that is because, right, like we are our parents. Like our parents, everyone, and our parents are specifically a really, really powerful mirror for us to see the things about ourselves that we may not like. It may highlight things about ourselves that we saw in our parents that we actually intentionally made different. So oftentimes our parents' voids become our values. So the things that you see in your parents that you don't like end up becoming the things that you prioritize and value deeply in your life. Let's say maybe emotional support was not super common in your family. It was not super common to receive from your parents. And so, as a parent, or not necessarily a parent, but as an individual, you've really gone out of your way to offer the people in your life emotional support because you knew what it was like to go without it, right? Your parents' voids become your values. And so I offered the reflection around this and around how that could be partly, triggering for him. And also offered the reflection that, his mom may be going through something that he doesn't know about. His mom may be feeling and experiencing something that she has a difficult time communicating, that's leading her to be more of an avoidant attachment style, right? To move away. And that's really common. There's many different types and forms of attachment styles. Not many, but there's a couple, right? There's anxious, there's avoidant, there's anxious avoidant, and there's a safe attachment. And he had expressed that she started moving away after his divorce. And the other thing that I offered to him as well was that there may have been something that triggered her when he got divorced that led her, right, led his mom to start to distance herself, right? That may have been triggering for her. Maybe something happened in her childhood that led her to be triggered by this divorce that he experienced. And so the thing is, like, we all carry around this bag of bricks on our back. Every single one of us have this backpack full of bricks. And these past experiences lead us to act and interact in the ways that we do with the world around us, the way that we do. And so, I offered to him because, it is hard. Like navigating relationships with your parents can be really, really hard. It can be triggering in so many ways. And I've navigated this myself. And in many aspects, I do still navigate this. And I have done a lot of healing around the relationships with both my parents. I'm still working on some deeper things with my mother personally. But, I went a period of time not talking to both of my parents, not at the same time, but I didn't have a relationship with my dad for almost 5 years, all through high school and into my first year of college. And that played a really big role on me. It massively influenced me in how I interacted with the world around me. It led me to have some really significant abandonment wounds. And what was really hard for me at the time was that, like, I could not see my dad. I did not have the ability to take a step backwards and be the observer and actually like be curious about what it is that my dad was experiencing that led him to show up and act the way that he did. And this is something that I work with my clients around when they're feeling triggered, is helping them take that step back, because sometimes it can be so easy to be here, right? Only see the thing that's in front of you. And again, everyone has that backpack of bricks. So reminding yourself, especially when it comes to your parents, that like your parents have that too, man. Just because they're older than you doesn't mean that they've dealt with all their stuff. They still got stuff. We all got stuff. We all got that backpack, right? And until you take a brick out of that backpack and look at it, you can't start to lighten up the backpack. That brick is going to be there and it's going to weigh you down until you choose to look at the thing. And so, just want to remind you that your parents may not have the same tools that you have. Your parents may not have the ability to connect with their emotions and understand why they're pulling away. And so when we talked more about it, he said, yeah, like his mom has been in a pretty depressed state since she retired. And the other thing there with that as well is like, well, when you retire, I haven't retired, but when you retire, I know that you go through a significant identity shift. You lose a part of you that you've had for such a long time in your life. And so as an adult, if you don't have those tools to navigate that, and you haven't learned them, and most of us haven't, I've taught them to myself, I've learned them from others, but most of us don't have these tools. Most of us don't have these tools, and we're not taught these tools to support ourselves. And this is something that I'm really passionate about in my life, is helping people learn how to gain these tools to better support themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically. There are things that we should be taught in schools, and some schools are teaching this, but we're not teaching it across the board. And so coming back to what I was saying here, like, his mom may be navigating an identity crisis. She may be like, who am I? She may be depressed, which she said she is, and she may be really, really struggling with like how to navigate that. And she's likely dysregulated in her nervous system if she's finding herself pulling away and being in this anxious attached state. And so one of the things that I encouraged him was to be curious about his mom and what she's experiencing. And I also invited him too, is like, she may not have these tools and the ability to support herself. So like, how can maybe he support her in fostering a space where it may be helpful for her to regulate her nervous system? So this might be like questioning, what is it that your parents are navigating, right? But more specifically, what is it that make your parents feel really good? Like, do your parents like to cook? Do your parents like to dance? Do your parents like to watch movies? Do your parents like to sing? Do they like music? Like, what is something that you can do to connect with your parents where you can meet them? And so that was something that we talked about and that I encouraged him as well. But I just really wanted to discuss that we all navigate this experience of being triggered by our parents, and learning how to express yourself, express what you're feeling, express when you're feeling triggered, and be able to communicate effectively with your parents is so important. And I think from my experience, communicating with family can be the hardest form of communication. And being able to learn, how do you set your own boundaries? How do you honor those boundaries? How do you not people please and just give your family what it is that they might want? Like, what is it that you want? A little bit of a tangent there, but yeah. So just thought that was a really powerful conversation with him today. And, just reminded him, be curious. You have no idea what your parents have been through. Maybe you do have some idea, but you haven't lived every single day with them. You have no idea what bricks they're carrying in their backpack. You have no idea what their experiences are in life that have led them to right here, right now, having the experience that they are. Right? Epigenetics, a study of your environment, how your environment influences who you are, how your genes are expressing, how you're acting and interacting with the world around you today. And so looking at what might have happened in their past. You don't necessarily have to know if you want to ask. Just know that could be triggering for them. They may not want to talk about it, which is okay, and you get to honor that. And just being curious, like finding and bringing compassion to what your parents are moving through, what your parents are navigating, what they're experiencing. Because they're as much of a breathing, a human being living in this crazy experience of life as you are. Like, dude, life is not always easy. Life is crazy. And, you think you have it all figured out, and we don't. That's the thing, is like, we really don't. And so just want to like invite you into bringing compassion and curiosity into your relationships with your parents. And like, how can you meet them where they're at, and how can you request non-violently and communicatively certain things from them? For example, like sometimes my dad just wants to like fix everything, right? He not really mansplain, but like he wants to fix all the things. And so sometimes I'll come to him with this thing and he's like trying to fix it all. And I'm like, Dad, like I really just want you to listen. It would feel really good for me if you could just listen to me right now and just like hold some space. And he will. But sometimes he needs to know that that's what I want, because nobody can show up in the way that you want them to if they don't know how you want them to show up. So think about that next time you find yourself triggered and you find yourself in a challenging situation or a conversation with the people that you love, with your family, with your given family. I mean, this goes for all people too, right? Like if you're not receiving something, if you're feeling like you're lacking something, if there's something that you want that you don't have, how can you communicate to this other person that this is your desire? How can you ask them, make an ask? How can you ask them to meet you and show up in a particular way so that it can meet you there? It can help you have what you want, help you with feeling what you want to feel. And remember, they always have the opportunity to say no, because they get the choice as well. And if they don't want to do that, and if that doesn't feel good for them, then that's their boundary, and you get to honor their boundary too. And part of communicating is finding the place where you both can meet each other. So anyways, I'm gonna go back to cutting my acorn squash here. But I'd love your feedback. I'd love to know what that brought up for you. I'd love to hear if there's any particular areas of this little random speech, flow that like was impactful for you. Did you take anything away? Send me a comment, leave me a comment below, and tag anyone that you think could benefit from hearing this. Sending love. Have a great rest of your evening.